What's up, everyone? Paul here from the Hoops crew to go through the round 15 recipient of Nuff of the Week. And this week, it goes to a fairly prestigious individual within this AFL industry. It's Laura Kane. After making some pretty ridiculous comments, I would say, following what was ultimately the recipient of last week's Nuff of the Week, which was kind of the umpires for some bad calls, especially quite late in the North Melbourne Collingwood game that cost North Melbourne a game. Everyone who watched football knew that both McCreery and Sidebottom had overstepped the mark. Except Laura Kane at the AFL, apparently. Oh, sorry, and the umpire who officiated at the time. But, that error, that happens. But what you would expect in that scenario is for the AFL to come out and say, we messed up, accidents happen. Well, not accidents happen. I'm sure North Melbourne fans wouldn't like that. But ultimately, accidents happen. We'll try and do better. It won't happen again. Instead, we got some ridiculous justification that essentially tried to suggest that the umpire was in the right for making the decision they made. Could not have been any further from the truth. It was completely wrong, completely inaccurate. And it was then highlighted by the likes of Dean Margetts, former AFL umpire, quite accomplished and has done a lot for the game, has been an amazing umpire for a very, very long time, sharing his thoughts on the decision, and then Laura Kane's justification afterwards. He spoke to the Wide World of Sports, and there's a recording there that people can absolutely check out, and I implore you to do so. This is coming straight from SEN right now, and yeah, he spoke to the Wide World of Sports. He spoke to Sam McClure and discussed the chaotic quote unquote scenes that unfolded at Marvel and what it meant in the situation. He stressed that he's confused by Laura Kane's reasoning. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. We're all confused by Laura Kane's justification, her reasoning here. It does not make any sense. It does not align with what we saw in several cases over the course of this weekend. I saw Carlton fans even, and as well as neutrals, drawing on examples where Tom Stewart, for example, got pinged for a 50. Exact same circumstances. And it was contentious to whether the ball went 15 meters or not. He encroached a little bit beyond the mark. He absolutely did. Let's not lose sight of that. He did overstep over the bounds of the mark, but the 50-meter penalty was played, unlike what we saw last week. But apparently the AFL umpires didn't make a mistake there. So Laura, what is it? Does that mean the umpires made a mistake in penalising Tom Stewart this week? There's no consistency. It goes back to the issues that we've had for the longest time. There's no consistency. And then some of the decision-making at AFL House justifies that poor decision-making and creates an even larger problem. Just call it when they make mistakes. Don't come into bat for people when they don't deserve it. If there's a mistake made, call it out. So Margetts goes on to say, it was a chaotic scene. We've seen lots of decisions that could technically be free kicks, but could footy feel have been applied? When we apply footy feel, we get admonished, and we apply technical free kicks, we get cracked as well. There is a lot of grey area around umpire decisions. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of instantaneous, split-second decision-making. And yes, incorrect decisions will get made. And I'm sorry, North Melbourne supporters, you fell victim to an incorrect umpiring decision last week. And we can talk about some umpiring decisions and some behaviours from Melbourne players this past weekend as well that may well have cost you the game there as well. And I'm so sorry that you've had 2 weeks in a row where you, as a team that's been on the canvas and has been absolutely in a world of hurt for years and years now, and has certainly been piled on pretty heavily this year, have had 2 golden opportunities to ascend up the ladder, or at least notch up a few wins and earn some credibility, beating teams that, especially Collingwood last week, have some real clout about them. They're the reigning premier, and you should have beaten them. And umpires have cost you that. I'm really sorry for you. But I do understand that umpires are going to make errors from time to time. That is okay. We've discussed this. It's totally okay for that to happen. But what is not okay is for that to be then greenlit, for that to be ticked off and said, yep, no worries, nothing to see here. And that's where we get on this really slippery slope. It's where we've seen these sorts of things with tribunals over the years, and the inconsistency that we get when a message from Christensen in the MRO makes its way to the tribunal, and then you get legal teams, lawyers, all those sorts of things involved. Gets a bit more political, and all of a sudden crazy decisions overturned or crazy decisions are made as a result of this disconnect, this lack of consistency. And we know that the AFL game is littered with lacks of consistency. It's an unbelievably hard game to umpire, but when it comes to those officiating off field, those who've got the laws of the game in front of them, the rule book, they've got the rule book right there. You can make these calls with 100% accuracy. Not everyone will like it. That's okay. Not everyone can like these things. And there's always a winner and a loser. You don't want to be on the wrong end of the ledger. You don't want to say, oh, you won, your team won, but they didn't really deserve to. And so, it'd be, it's interesting, I guess, to get the perspective of Collingwood supporters from the last week and potentially Melbourne supporters from this week, where there's an argument that could be leveled at them saying you won, but you didn't deserve it. And how would they react? I understand all of these sorts of things, but we can't let that get in the way, because the right decision needs to be made. It's black or white in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to the off-field components of these things. Again, human error is a thing. It can affect the game itself. We don't want it to happen where the AFL is putting in mechanisms, whether it's the score review, whether it's a fourth officiating umpire on the ground. There's a range of different measures they are trying to implement because the game is getting so fast and so hard to accurately monitor. There's going to be things that are missed. I saw a lot of commentary, and I guess I go back to Geelong and Carlton, and sorry, everyone, this is a Geelong show. I go back to Geelong and Carlton on the weekend, and several comments about the way Carlton players apparently more than others. And keep in mind, these weren't Geelong supporters saying this, by the way. They were talking about how Carlton players, seemingly more than any other club, seem to get away with throwing the ball. And then they pulled out a few examples from that game. I don't think that's the case. I mean, maybe statistically they are getting away with more, but I think that's just luck of the draw. Because the rules are the rules, and the AFL umpires will look to enforce those to the best of their ability. It's just that you can't get everything. The police can't stop everything in what goes on in society as well, unfortunately. Some things slip through the cracks, unfortunately. And it applies to our game as well as it does for the day-to-day of society. We just need to ensure that when the opportunity comes afterwards to acknowledge that there maybe was an error, especially if you're the governing body, acknowledge the error. It's just not that hard. And you earn a lot of respect from people when you do so. It might hurt the umpire's feelings. We're not here to nurse feelings. We're here to make the right decision, to have a game that is built upon respect. But the AFL game loses respect when decisions like this get made. So Laura Kane, you really put your foot in it. You made some really dumb comments. You tried to justify something that should not have been and was completely unjustifiable in the first place. And so you're the Nuff of the Week for this week. Cats fans, neutrals, whoever might be watching this today, I hope you enjoyed it. That was Nuff of the Week. Our round 15 recipient, Laura Kane. Check out a whole range of Nuff of the Weeks. Of course, I referenced last week's one, which was kind of the incident itself and the decision-making there. I did not expect things to get worse, but go check out that. Go check out a whole range of awesome things that we've got here at the Hoops Crew. Match reviews. We've got post-game live. It's a whole range of cool things. The chaps chat cats, and they do some awesome stuff there in terms of their analysis of the AFL team, the VFL team, the VFLW team, and the upcoming AFLW season. There's lots of cool things that you can check out on the Hoops Crew, so please make sure to do that. You can find us on socials. You can find me on socials at Paul James Games. Check out our Patreon, where you can get 1 week of free access before considering subscribing and sticking around, hopefully. Hopefully you like what you see. We've got the Scratching Post, a new daily series that is available for people exclusively on the Patreon, where I'll be talking about a whole range of different topics. Check that out as well. But until next week, remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.